Being nice won't earn you respect. In fact, in this world, being too nice can make you invisible. You've probably been told that if you're kind, polite, and accommodating, people will appreciate you. But let's be honest, how many times have you put others first only to be ignored, overlooked, or disrespected? Respect isn't given, it's commanded, it's built through strength, boundaries, and an unshakable belief in yourself. And today you're going to learn exactly how to shift from being too nice to being someone people admire, listen to, and take seriously. This isn't about turning into a jerk. It's about mastering the balance between kindness and strength. Because the truth is, if you don't respect yourself first, no one else will. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you'll know exactly how to step into your power, set boundaries like a leader, and gain the respect you truly deserve. You've probably heard it 1,000 times, just be nice and everything will work out. But if that were true, the kindest people would be the most respected. That's not how the world works. When you're overly nice without showing strength, people start to see you as someone they can use. They don't necessarily hate you, but they don't take you seriously either. You become the person who's always available, always willing to help, and always last on their list of priorities. The problem is that being too nice often looks like weakness. If you never push back, if you always agree, if you never stand your ground, people assume you lack confidence. And in a world where strength is respected, weakness is ignored. You might think you're avoiding conflict by being agreeable, but what you're really doing is giving away your power. It starts small. You agree to something you don't want to do. You smile when someone disrespects you. You let things slide because you don't want to make a scene. But every time you do that, you teach people that your needs don't matter, that their time is more valuable than yours, that they can ignore you without consequences. The more you accommodate, the less they respect you. It's not because people are bad, it's because human nature works this way. People value what is scarce and what requires effort to earn. If you're always available, always saying yes, and always putting others before yourself, you make it too easy for them to overlook you. The mistake most people make is confusing approval with respect. They think if people like them, they'll naturally be respected. But being liked and being respected are two very different things. People like the person who makes their life easier, but they respect the person who stands their ground. When you constantly seek approval, you put yourself in a weaker position. You start shaping your words and actions around what you think others want to hear. You hesitate before saying no because you're afraid of disappointing someone. You tolerate behavior that makes you uncomfortable just to keep the peace. And in the process, you send a message that your feelings, your time, and your boundaries are less important than theirs. If you're always worried about being liked, you'll end up being tolerated instead of respected. People will enjoy having you around, but they won't value you. They'll see you as a convenient option, not a priority. They'll turn to you when they need something, but they won't go out of their way for you. And when you finally stand up for yourself, they'll be shocked because you've trained them to believe you wouldn't. The hardest truth to accept is this: when you constantly prioritize everyone else's needs over your own, you teach them to do the same. If you don't value your own time, why should they? If you don't stand up for yourself, why should they respect you? If you let them take advantage of you once, they'll do it again. The good news is that you can change this. Respect isn't about being mean or selfish. It's about making it clear that you have value, that your time matters, that your voice deserves to be heard. It starts with recognizing that you don't have to be available all the time, that you can say no without guilt, that you can be kind without being a pushover. Being too nice won't earn you respect, but being strong, setting boundaries, and valuing yourself will. And once you do that, you'll notice something incredible. People will start treating you differently. They'll listen when you speak. They'll respect your time. They'll take you seriously. Because respect isn't about being liked. It's about standing in your own power and refusing to shrink for anyone. Being nice without boundaries is seen as weakness, not strength. You may think that being polite, always saying yes, and avoiding conflict makes people appreciate you. But more often than not, it does the opposite. It makes people take you for granted. When you never push back, when you always accommodate, when you hesitate to stand your ground, people assume you're someone they can use. Not because they're cruel, but because human nature follows patterns. People respect strength. They respect those who set limits, those who make it clear they won't be taken advantage of. But when you're too nice, too available, and too eager to please, you become an easy target. Not in an obvious intentional way, but in the way people subconsciously sort others into categories. The ones they admire, the ones they fear, and the ones they overlook. If you don't stand up for yourself, you end up in the last category. Think about the people in your life who are always giving. The ones who drop everything to help, who never ask for anything in return. Do they get treated like leaders? Do they get the respect they deserve? Or are they often the ones left waiting, the ones others expect to be okay with less? There's a fine line between being kind and being weak. Many people cross that line without even realizing it. They think being agreeable means being easy to work with. But in reality, it often sends the message that they lack confidence. when you never express your own opinions, when you hesitate before disagreeing, when you constantly look for approval before making decisions, people start to see you as someone who follows rather than leads. Seeking approval weakens your presence. It tells people you're more concerned with how they feel than with standing firm in your own values. It makes them question your strength. And here's the hard truth. When people sense insecurity, they treat you accordingly. They interrupt you more. They overlook your ideas. They assume you'll agree with whatever they say. Imagine a doormat at a front door. It's always there, always ready to be stepped on. No one thinks twice before walking over it. That's exactly what happens when you allow yourself to be too accommodating. If you're always bending to fit other people's needs, they'll keep walking all over you. Not out of malice, but because you've never given them a reason not to. Avoiding confrontation comes at a cost. You might think you're keeping the peace by staying silent, by brushing off small insults, by swallowing your frustration instead of speaking up. But every time you do, you chip away at your own self-respect. The more you avoid conflict, the more you teach others that your feelings don't matter. It doesn't happen all at once. It happens over time. The friend who always interrupts you. The boss who piles extra work on your desk without asking. The partner who makes all the decisions. You let it slide once, then again, until one day you realize you've lost control over your own life. People who never stand up for themselves end up with broken self-esteem, missed opportunities, and built-up resentment. They watch as others move forward while they stay stuck. They wonder why they're always the ones adjusting, always the ones compromising. They feel exhausted, but they don't know how to change it. If you don't respect yourself, why should anyone else? If you don't show people that your time, your opinions, and your boundaries matter, they won't treat them like they do. Respect isn't something you ask for, it's something you claim through your actions. Are you nice because you genuinely care, or because you're afraid of what will happen if you're not? That's the question you need to ask yourself. Are you helping because you want to, or because you feel obligated? Are you agreeing because you believe in something, or because you don't want to cause tension? Many people stay silent out of fear. Fear of being judged, fear of being rejected, fear of making someone uncomfortable. But fear is a poor guide. If you let it run your life, you'll always be adjusting, always trying to avoid problems instead of addressing them. The moment you recognize this pattern, you can break it. You can start making choices that come from strength instead of fear. You can stop feeling guilty for saying no. You can stop assuming that standing up for yourself is selfish. You can understand that real kindness isn't about letting people walk over you. It's about respecting yourself first. Being too nice won't get you respect, but strength, boundaries, and self-worth will. The choice is yours. People often confuse being liked with being respected. They assume that if people enjoy their company, laugh at their jokes, and invite them into conversations, respect naturally follows. But that's not always the case. Being liked is about making people feel comfortable. Being respected is about making people take you seriously. You can be the nicest person in the room, always available, always agreeable, and still be ignored when it matters. You can be surrounded by friends, but find that no one values your opinion when tough decisions arise. You can spend years trying to be liked, only to realize that people only see you as an option, not a priority. Look around. The people who command respect don't waste time trying to be everyone's favorite. They don't shape their words to fit what others want to hear. They don't fear standing alone if necessary. Respect doesn't come from being liked. It comes from how you carry yourself, how you stand by your values, and how you show up in the moments that count. Constantly seeking approval weakens you. The more you rely on other people's opinions to feel secure, the more power you give away. When you need reassurance to feel good about yourself, you become dependent. You start adjusting your actions based on what you think others want, instead of what you know is right for you. People-pleasing is a trap. It makes you second-guess yourself. It keeps you from making bold moves. It forces you into a cycle where your happiness depends on how others react to you. And the worst part, even when you do everything right, someone will still find a reason to criticize you. If you live for approval, you'll crumble under rejection. There will always be people who don't like you. There will always be moments where someone disagrees with your choices. If you build your confidence on the idea that everyone must approve of you, you set yourself up for failure. Respect comes when you stand firm, even when others don't understand your decisions. True respect is never forced, it's earned. People think that if they demand respect loudly enough, others will have no choice but to give it to them. They raise their voice, they dominate conversations, they try to intimidate others into recognizing their worth. But that kind of respect is shallow. It lasts only as long as people feel pressured to comply. The moment they no longer feel that pressure, they walk away. Real respect isn't about making people afraid of you. It's about how you show up, how you speak, how you handle yourself under pressure. It's about being someone who doesn't need to ask for respect because their actions make it clear that they deserve it. Think of the leaders, mentors, and figures you admire. They don't beg for respect. They don't demand it. They command it through presence, through action, through an unshakable belief in themselves. That's the kind of respect that lasts. Trying too hard to be liked weakens your position. People respect those who know their worth, not those who are willing to shrink themselves to fit in. If you spend all your time making sure everyone is comfortable, you end up sacrificing your own voice. Constantly bending to others' expectations makes you invisible. When you agree with everything, when you never challenge an idea, when you never take a firm stand, people stop noticing you. You blend into the background. You become just another person who goes along with the flow. A strong oak tree doesn't bend to every passing wind. Neither should you. Strength isn't about being rigid or unyielding. It's about knowing when to stand your ground. It's about understanding that you can be kind without being a pushover. It's about realizing that real respect doesn't come from trying to be everything to everyone. It comes from standing tall in who you are. Standing up for yourself shouldn't feel like an impossible task, yet for many people, it does. They hesitate. They second-guess themselves. They let things slide even when they know they shouldn't. The real reason? Fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of upsetting others. Fear of conflict. It's not that they don't want respect. It's that deep down they're afraid of what might happen if they demand it. This fear isn't random. It starts early. Maybe you were taught to be polite at all costs. Maybe you learned that speaking up led to punishment. Maybe you watched others get rejected or ridiculed when they tried to assert themselves, so you decided it was safer to stay quiet. Over time, these lessons become patterns. You hesitate because you've been trained to hesitate. You avoid confrontation because somewhere along the line you started believing that standing up for yourself wasn't worth the risk. But here's the truth. Those beliefs aren't facts. They are old habits built on experiences that no longer serve you. If you want respect, you have to unlearn them. You have to break free from the idea that standing firm makes you difficult, that setting boundaries makes you selfish, or that speaking up makes you a problem. The only way to change how others treat you is to change how you see yourself. People who are respected don't see themselves as background characters in their own lives. They don't wait for permission to take up space. They don't worry about whether everyone approves of them. They don't live their lives based on what's easiest for everyone else. They know they have value and they act like it. You have to shift how you see yourself. You are not here to accommodate everyone. You are not here to be quiet, agreeable, and unnoticed. You are here to be heard, to be seen, to take control of your own life. The moment you stop seeing yourself as someone who must always adjust, always fit in, always avoid conflict, you'll start to understand what respect really looks like. You deserve to be valued just as much as anyone else. Your voice matters. Your opinions matter. Your time matters. And if you don't believe that first, no one else will. The way you talk to yourself shapes how you carry yourself. If you tell yourself you're not important, you'll shrink. If you tell yourself you're not strong enough, you'll hesitate. But if you start replacing those thoughts with certainty, with the belief that you are worthy of respect, you will start acting like someone who deserves it. And when you act like that, people take notice. Confidence is not arrogance. A lot of people fear standing tall because they don't want to be seen as aggressive or rude. But confidence and arrogance are not the same thing. Confidence is knowing your worth. Arrogance is trying to prove it to others. People respect confidence because it feels solid, steady, unshaken. People reject arrogance because it feels desperate, forced, and unstable. The reason confident people naturally command respect is that they don't need outside approval to believe in themselves. They don't have to demand attention because their presence does it for them. They walk into a room like they belong there. They speak with clarity. They don't over-explain. They don't apologize unnecessarily. And they don't let doubt creep into their words. They project certainty, and in return people trust them, listen to them, and respect them. You don't have to say a word to project confidence. The way you stand, the way you carry yourself, the way you look people in the eye, these things send a message long before you open your mouth. People notice how you hold yourself. They notice if you hesitate, if you shrink, if you seem unsure. But they also notice if you walk with certainty, if you stand tall, if you speak with conviction. Confidence is not about being the loudest in the room. It's about being the most certain. Your mindset is like a muscle. The more you train it, the stronger it gets. The less you use it, the weaker it becomes. If you've spent years letting people walk over you, it's not going to change overnight. Respect is built one decision at a time. Every time you say no when you mean it. Every time you speak up instead of staying silent. Every time you refuse to let someone take advantage of you, you strengthen that muscle. There are simple things you can do every day to build a mindset that commands respect. Start by changing the way you talk to yourself. Cut out the self-doubt. Remove the hesitation from your words. Stop apologizing when there's nothing to be sorry for. Train yourself to pause before agreeing to things you don't want to do. Hold your ground in small moments so you can stand firm when it matters most. The moment you decide to respect yourself, the world will follow. The people around you will start treating you differently. Not because they changed, but because you did. Because you started showing up with a presence that demands to be taken seriously. Because you stopped making excuses for why you couldn't stand up for yourself. Because you chose to believe that you are worthy of respect, and once you believe that, nothing can shake it. Boundaries are the foundation of self-respect. Without them, you give the world permission to treat you however it wants. People who struggle with respect often have one thing in common: they say yes too much. They overextend themselves, they take on responsibilities that aren't theirs, and they put other people's needs before their own. And in doing so, they send a message: my time, my energy, and my priorities don't matter as much as yours. When you say yes to everything, you make yourself too available. And when something is always available, people stop valuing it. It's human nature. If people know they can count on you to always say yes, they stop appreciating it. They start expecting it. And when you finally do say no, they act shocked because you trained them to believe you wouldn't. Every time you say yes to something unimportant, you say no to yourself. You say no to your own priorities, no to your peace of mind, no to the time and energy you should be using to build the life you actually want. Boundaries aren't selfish, they're necessary. And if you don't set them, no one else will. The problem with weak boundaries is that they never stay small. They start with little things: letting someone interrupt you, agreeing to extra work when you're already stretched thin, letting a friend cancel plans last minute without saying anything. But small things add up. The more you allow, the more people take. People push limits when they sense hesitation. They test how much they can get away with. And if you don't push back, they learn that they can keep going. Not because they're bad people, but because that's how human relationships work. If someone knows they can talk over you without consequence, they will. If they know you'll pick up the slack at work, they'll let you. If they know you won't speak up when you're uncomfortable, they won't think twice before crossing the line. If you let one small crack form in a dam, the whole structure eventually collapses. That's what happens with weak boundaries. It starts with something small, but before you know it, you're drained, frustrated, and wondering how you ended up here. The solution isn't to get angry at others. It's to stop allowing it in the first place. Saying no is one of the most powerful things you can do, but only if you do it the right way. Many people struggle with saying no because they don't want to come across as rude. They soften it. They explain too much. They give reasons that invite negotiation, and before they know it, their no turns into a hesitant maybe. Being firm doesn't mean being rude. It means being clear. It means stating your boundaries with confidence and without apology. If someone asks you to do something you don't want to do, you don't owe them a long explanation. You don't need to justify your decision. A simple "I won't be able to do that" is enough. Over-explaining weakens your position. The more reasons you give, the more room you leave for pushback. If you say "I can't do that because I'm really busy," they might respond with, "Well, what about later?" If you say "I don't think I'm the right person for that," they might try to convince you otherwise. But if you simply say "No, I can't," there's no room for argument. People who are respected don't over-explain their decisions. They don't justify themselves constantly. They don't feel the need to convince others that their choices are valid. They know their worth, and they act accordingly. Silence is one of the most powerful tools you can use. Most people feel uncomfortable with silence. They rush to fill it. They explain too much. They try to soften their words. But confident people understand that sometimes saying less is what makes people take you more seriously. When you state a boundary, leave it at that. You don't need to follow up with a long explanation. You don't need to soften the message. If someone questions your decision, you don't have to justify it. Let the silence do the work. If you don't set the standard, someone else will set it for you. The way people treat you is a reflection of what you allow. If you don't make it clear where your boundaries are, people will keep pushing them. Not because they're trying to disrespect you, but because you haven't shown them where the line is. Respect starts with you. The moment you decide to set firm boundaries, to say no without guilt, and to stop over-explaining yourself, everything changes. People start treating you differently, not because they changed, but because you did. Respect starts before you even open your mouth. Before you say a single word, people have already formed an opinion about you. They pick up on the way you stand, the way you carry yourself, the way you enter a room. Your presence speaks for you long before your voice does. There are 3 silent signals that command authority: voice, posture, and eye contact. A strong voice doesn't mean being loud. It means being steady, controlled, and clear. People respect those who speak with certainty. Your posture tells people how you feel about yourself. Stand tall, shoulders back, and move with intention. A slouched posture signals uncertainty. A strong stance signals confidence. And eye contact? That's the fastest way to establish respect. Looking people in the eye shows that you're present, engaged, and unafraid. Looking down or avoiding eye contact tells them the opposite. Subtle changes in body language make a difference. A person who speaks with a straight posture, maintains eye contact, and controls their voice is naturally seen as someone to take seriously. Compare that to someone who fidgets, avoids eye contact, and speaks with hesitation. The difference is obvious. Respect isn't demanded, it's projected. And it starts with how you show up. What you say matters, but how you say it matters more. The same words can either command attention or be completely ignored depending on your tone, pace, and delivery. People don't just listen to what you say, they listen to how you say it. A voice that is clear, steady, and deliberate commands respect. A voice that is hesitant, rushed, or filled with nervous laughter weakens your presence. Speaking too fast makes you sound uncertain. Speaking too softly makes people tune you out. But speaking with control, pausing when necessary, lowering your tone for impact, makes people lean in. There's a difference between commanding speech and timid speech. People who speak with authority don't end their sentences like they're asking a question. They don't fill their words with they don't apologize before stating their opinion. When they talk, they own their words. They believe in what they're saying, and that belief makes others believe in them too. One of the most powerful tools you can use is the strategic pause. When you pause, people pay attention. Silence makes words more powerful. It signals confidence. It gives weight to what you just said. It makes people hang on to your next sentence. When you speak with purpose, you control the room. Confidence doesn't mean being aggressive. It doesn't mean being the loudest person in the room. It doesn't mean dominating conversations or forcing people to listen to you. Confidence is quiet but undeniable. It doesn't need to be proven, it just is. The biggest mistake people make when trying to command respect is confusing confidence with intimidation. They think they need to be forceful. They think they need to overpower others. But trying too hard to assert dominance makes you look insecure, not strong. Real confidence doesn't need to shout. It stands firm. Respected figures know how to balance strength with approachability. They know when to be direct and when to listen. They know how to stand their ground without pushing others down. They don't force their authority, they embody it. And because of that, people follow them willingly, not out of fear, but out of respect. The people who struggle the most to gain respect are the ones who over-explain themselves. They think that if they just explain enough, people will understand them. If they just justify their decisions, people will accept them. If they just ask for permission, they won't face resistance. But the opposite happens. The more you explain, the weaker you sound. The more you ask for permission, the less seriously people take you. Powerful leaders don't seek approval for their choices. They don't justify every move they make. They decide, they act, and they move forward. They don't waste energy trying to convince people to respect them. They earn it through action. The more you explain, the more power you give away. When you over-explain, you open the door for people to question you. When you constantly justify yourself, you send the message that your decisions need approval. But when you speak with certainty, when you say what needs to be said and leave it at that, people respect your words. Respect isn't something you ask for. It's something you command by the way you carry yourself, the way you speak, and the way you show up every day. Stop waiting for people to take you seriously. Stop explaining yourself into weakness. Speak with confidence, act with purpose, and let your presence do the rest. Society teaches us that being agreeable is a strength. From a young age, we are told to be polite, to avoid conflict, to say yes whenever possible. The idea is that if you are kind, cooperative, and easygoing, people will like you more. And if they like you, they'll respect you. But that's not how the world works. Always saying yes doesn't earn you respect. It makes people take you for granted. It makes them assume that your time, your energy, and your needs are secondary to theirs. It turns you into someone they rely on, but don't value. The more agreeable you are, the more invisible you become. Avoiding conflict doesn't make you strong. It makes you easy to ignore. When you never challenge anything, when you always adjust to fit the needs of others, people stop seeing you as someone with authority. They see you as someone who will always go along with whatever they want. Respect isn't earned by pleasing everyone, it's earned by standing firm. It's not about being rude or difficult, but about showing people that you have a voice and you are not afraid to use it. If you never say no, if you never push back, if you never hold your ground, don't be surprised when people stop taking you seriously. Disagreement doesn't have to be a fight. It doesn't have to be an attack. In fact, the ability to disagree without turning a discussion into a battle is a sign of true confidence. People who can stand by their opinions while still respecting others are the ones who gain real influence. The key is in how you present your opinion. If you raise your voice, get defensive, or immediately assume the other person is wrong, you invite conflict. But if you speak with calmness, clarity, and certainty, people are more likely to listen. If you focus on the idea rather than making it personal, you create an opportunity for real discussion rather than an argument. Disagreement isn't a threat, it's a sign of independent thinking. Respected people don't just go along with the majority. They challenge ideas, they ask questions, they push for better solutions, and they do it without losing their composure. Look at those who command respect in any field. They don't just nod along to everything. They know how to stand firm without being aggressive. They know how to challenge without making it personal. And because of that, people listen to them. Kindness is not weakness. Too many people believe that in order to be taken seriously, they need to be harsh, distant, or unapproachable. They confuse strength with coldness. But true strength isn't about being tough all the time. It's about knowing when to be firm and when to be understanding. Kindness and strength can exist together. In fact, the most respected people are those who know how to balance both. They treat others with fairness, but they don't let themselves be taken advantage of. They listen, but they don't bend just to avoid upsetting someone. They are approachable, but they don't let people cross their boundaries. A steel hand in a velvet glove, firm, yet respectful. That's the kind of presence that earns respect. You don't have to be rude to be strong. You don't have to be aggressive to set boundaries. You just have to make it clear that while you are willing to listen, you are not willing to be walked over. Weak people run from confrontation. They see it as something to be avoided at all costs. They let people take advantage of them because they're too afraid to speak up. They stay silent, even when they know they should say something. But confrontation isn't something to fear. It's something to handle with wisdom. Strong people don't look for conflict, but they don't shy away from it either. They understand that setting boundaries means facing moments of discomfort. They know that saying no will sometimes upset others. They accept that disagreement is a part of life. But instead of avoiding these moments, they approach them with clarity and control. Standing your ground doesn't mean escalating tension. It doesn't mean being harsh or aggressive. It means being clear about where you stand and refusing to back down just to make others comfortable. It means knowing that people may not always like your choices, but they will respect them. Weak people fear confrontation. Strong people use it as a tool for clarity. When you embrace confrontation with wisdom, you stop letting fear control you. You stop worrying about whether people will be upset. You stop hesitating when you know you need to speak up. You step into a position of strength, and in doing so you command the respect you deserve. Constantly saying sorry weakens your presence. It makes people see you as unsure, as someone who needs permission to exist. Apologies should be reserved for real mistakes, not for simply taking up space. Yet so many people apologize out of habit, before asking a question, before stating an opinion, before doing something they have every right to do. They say sorry when they mean excuse me, when they mean thank you, or even when they've done nothing wrong at all. There is a difference between a real apology and self-sabotaging, over-apologizing. A real apology is powerful. It takes responsibility when you've made a mistake. It shows integrity, but an unnecessary apology lowers your status. It makes people take you less seriously. If you keep apologizing for things that don't require it, you are training yourself and everyone around you to believe that you are somehow in the wrong. Replace unnecessary apologies with confident, direct communication. Instead of saying sorry to bother you, say excuse me, do you have a moment? Instead of sorry for the delay, say thank you for your patience. Every time you replace an apology with strength, you reinforce your presence. You teach people to see you as someone who stands firm, who doesn't shrink, who knows their worth. Talking too much doesn't make you sound smarter. It doesn't make you look more confident. In fact, it does the opposite. People who constantly talk often end up saying more than they should, diluting their message and making their words carry less weight. The more you speak without intention, the less seriously people take what you say. Great leaders and respected individuals understand the power of silence. They don't feel the need to fill every gap in conversation. They don't rush to respond just to prove they have something to say. They listen, they observe, and when they do speak, people listen because they know that what they're about to say is worth hearing. When you listen more, people value your words when you do speak. The person who talks nonstop is often ignored, while the person who speaks with precision commands attention. It's not about staying silent all the time, it's about choosing your words carefully, making sure that when you do speak, you're saying something meaningful. People respect those who respect themselves first. If you don't value your own time, no one else will. If you constantly put others' needs ahead of your own, people will take that as a sign that your needs aren't important. The more you allow yourself to be stretched thin, the less others will respect your limits. Setting personal priorities isn't selfish, it's necessary. Successful individuals don't let other people dictate how they spend their time. They don't feel guilty for saying no to things that don't serve them. They don't sacrifice their own well-being just to keep others happy, and because of that, people take them seriously. Look at the most respected people in any field. They guard their time. They aren't easily pulled into distractions. They don't allow themselves to be at everyone's disposal. They move with purpose, and that purpose demands respect. If you want people to value you, start by valuing yourself. If you let disrespect slide, you teach people that it's okay. If you brush it off, if you laugh it away, If you tell yourself it's not worth addressing, you are sending a message, one that says, you can treat me this way and I won't stop you. Failing to address disrespect sends a message of weakness. It tells people that they can interrupt you, dismiss your opinions, talk over you, or ignore your boundaries without consequences. And once that pattern starts, it's hard to break. People treat you based on what you allow. Correct behavior immediately, but do it without aggression. You don't have to argue, you don't have to fight, but you do have to make it clear that you will not tolerate being treated poorly. If someone talks over you, don't just let it go, say I wasn't finished speaking. If someone disrespects your time, say I need a heads up next time. If someone pushes your boundaries, stand firm and don't waver. If you don't demand respect, the world will assume you don't deserve it. People don't automatically give respect. It's something you show them how to give. If you want to be treated with dignity, then act like someone who won't accept anything less. Waiting for respect to be given to you will never work. People aren't going to suddenly wake up and decide to treat you differently. They won't realize on their own that they should listen to you, value your time, or acknowledge your worth. Respect isn't handed out, it's claimed. The harsh truth is this: the world treats you based on how you treat yourself. If you act like someone who deserves respect, people will follow that lead. But if you hesitate, if you doubt yourself, if you allow yourself to be walked over, people will take advantage of that. If you don't claim your place, someone else will take it. There will always be people who are willing to step ahead of you, speak over you, and take what you hesitate to reach for. The only way to stop that from happening is to step up and own your worth. Being respected has nothing to do with being aggressive or rude. Some people think that the only way to gain respect is by being tough, by being loud, by forcing people to listen. But that's not true respect, that's just fear. And fear-based respect doesn't last. The key is balancing self-assurance with consideration for others. You don't have to be harsh to be strong. You don't have to be cold to be respected. You just have to make it clear that you won't compromise on your worth. Powerful leaders maintain respect without hostility. They don't threaten people into listening. They don't use force to make people take them seriously. They earn it through their actions, through their confidence, through their ability to stand firm without stepping on others. That's the kind of respect that lasts. Change begins the moment you decide to take action. Not tomorrow, not next week, now. Respect isn't built in one grand moment. It's built in the small daily choices you make. Every time you speak with confidence, every time you set a boundary, every time you refuse to let yourself be overlooked, you are reinforcing your worth. The small daily shifts create massive long-term results. You don't have to overhaul your entire life in a single day. You just have to start making better choices, choices that reflect your value. Because when you start acting like someone who deserves respect, the world will start treating you that way. Excuses don't build respect, action does. You can't keep telling yourself that you'll change someday. You can't keep waiting for the perfect moment. The time to start is now. Respect starts with you. It starts with the moment you decide that you are worthy of it. It starts with the way you carry yourself, the way you speak, the way you handle challenges. It starts when you stop letting fear control you and start stepping into your own power. The moment you believe in your worth, the world will follow. The way people treat you will shift. The way they listen to you, acknowledge you, and respect you will change. Not because they decided to, but because you did. Because you stopped waiting and started leading. Because you finally saw yourself as someone who deserves to be taken seriously. And when you see it, the world sees it too.